Breaking news. So I just went to add some Post Malone songs onto my Spotify car playlist, thinking, oh, since I liked Post Malone, I'll add some songs in. And what I realized is I don't like Post Malone. What I liked of Post Malone is his acoustic versions. What I watched was a little like acoustic in studio, it's like an NPR music special or something like that, where he sits in a room with a band. They're all, you know, there's no electronics in there, and I do not like electronic music. For whatever reason, it's just a no, no, no for me. And most of his music has electronics in it when it's not done by in that acoustic version. So correction. And it's probably true for all music, even music that I like that doesn't have electronic music. I often like the acoustic versions of songs better. I like acoustic sounds very much. You know what I really love is the resonator guitar sound. That's the closest to like metal-y sounds that I like. Uh, yeah. So there's that. Hold on, I'll be right back to do a reading. Okay, so the reading is going to be, what do you have a false impression of? Like I did about Post Malone's music. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not my favorite, and I wouldn't put it on my playlist. Unless it was an acoustic version, then I probably would. Pick one, irritated. Pick two, 3 days. Pick three, aura. So, take a deep breath. Choose your own intuition to decide if one or more of these has a message for you. What do you have a false impression about? We're going to start with irritated. Got some juice on my fingers. Gone from the straw. Okay. Alright, pick one. What was the impression you have? I can see the word wacky down in my block bucket that's still open, and the block that's showing says wacky. So maybe about something being weird or out of control. Hold on, though. What's the false impression that you have? Aphrodite. Master. That somebody is like luring you in with their beauty or love or money. Limited view. Stuck. Libra. Balance. This is interesting. What's the false view? Human design and celebrate. Alright, and what's the truth? Or what's the objective view? What's the truth? Echo, Earth, excluded, 2 to 3 months, revisit and mine for gold, Leo, and Sun. All right. You think that maybe someone put a spell on you, or like is using witchcraft to keep your attention or to seduce you or to tantalize you. You think that they've got some sort of power and that they're playing with you and they're happy about it or something like that. And the real case is that you're not in contact with this person, but you are being asked to look at it again. And the reason why you're pulled towards it is because there's something more for you to see. You haven't seen what you needed to see about the whole situation. And you know what I think it is? It's something about the way that person shines. Somehow you're taking it as a personal offense, and it's really something that you can embody for yourself. Like you have that too. You have that skill too. And because you don't own it in yourself, for some reason, oh, wacky was there. It's like you haven't given yourself permission to step out of the box. So when you see somebody stepping out of the box in some sort of way, you're demonizing them in some way. And then, like, what you see in them, you just kind of like have for some reason not owned it in yourself, rejected it in yourself, or deemed it like not okay. And now, but it does exist in you. So you're actually projecting onto that person. And you're, the reason why your consciousness keeps going towards that person is not because they're luring you or have a spell on you or anything, but maybe there's a soul contract, but it's because you're being asked to relook at that because you're trying to push it away and you're trying to say like, you know, whatever, that's not part of my life, but it actually is. It's in you, and it's like you've actually shunned a part of yourself, like a main part of yourself. We've got the Leo and the Sun. So what you see in them exists in you. So the wrong impression that you have is that there's something going on that's kind of bad and against you and dangerous, and you know, but actually it's like how the universe is working to try to show you something about yourself because you don't understand the mirror concept. You're not taking into consideration the mirror concept, even if you do understand it. Like you just haven't applied it to this. It's like the universe is pointing this out to you because it wants you to stop excluding that part of yourself from you, from the wholeness of who you are, to rescue that part of yourself that's essentially suffering in pain or being denied and excluded from yourself when, you know, now you're attracting things into your life based on that. And it's not who you really are. You're not able to be fully authentic and stand in your power because you've been using your power to exclude a part of yourself. And when you do that, someone will always use that against you. And that's kind of why you have the impression that somebody is doing something against you. It's because you've made yourself vulnerable in a way. They're not actually doing it. All they are is a mirror. Okay? All right, pick one. Very interesting and beautiful at the same time, right? I hope. I hope you feel so. I know that could be a knock to your ego, especially if your ego is, like, just think about what your ego is. It's a set of behaviors and thoughts and beliefs that you've put in place in order to protect you. And for whatever reason, your ego is protecting you from thinking this thing that is part of you is part of you. And there's got to be a reason for that. So you're being presented with an opportunity to like rescue this part of yourself, or just like step out of the box of your comfort zone in a way too. Like however you want to put it, however you want to tell the story to yourself, basically there's going to be some sort of ego death, because that part of your ego that was protecting you from a major part of yourself, like a major part of yourself, a major part of who you are, that you've been seeing in somebody else and shunning, that part of your ego is going to have to get on board with the fact that that's actually you and it's okay. So what are you going to do to suffice your ego? You're going to acknowledge that your ego is doing this. You're going to validate why your ego is doing this. So where did this come from? What is it that you think about that person? And, why have you demonized this thing within yourself? It could be this for the same reasons, right? Like same feelings could be associated. Accept that this is the case, and then you're going to be present with how it feels first to have shunned that part of you, to be that part, and all of the feelings that could be associated with it. You just be the one who's present with you while you have those feelings show up. And basically reintegrate this part of yourself. And life is really going to change. Life is really going to change. What feels like an irritation now is going to go away. It's not going to be irritating you anymore. The reason why it's irritating you now is because this is the only way Spirit has to show you this. Like, this might be a very unique trait, and maybe not a lot of people can mirror it back to you. So this person mirrors it back to you. And maybe Spirit, it's like, oh, it's going to take a few years before I can get another person in front of this person to mirror this back to them. I need them to look at this. So remember, it's just information to reflect on. I'm going to move on to the second one. Pick 2. 3 days. What is the false impression? What is the false impression? And what is the truth? I know I didn't show you, but retrograde, Juno, natal chart experience, this limits you at this time, sun, and fitness is the false impression. I'm going to get the truth so I can compare and get the full picture. What is the objective truth? Sun came out again. Rainbow, cleared water, sun, Narcissus, Oshun, longing, validate, and Ra. Ra is the sun god. And I'm just going to have to sit with this for a moment to get an impression here. I'm just going to have to start talking and see what comes out. The false impression you have is that you have to revisit something, a commitment, perhaps even have a commitment with someone from the past, that you're meant to do it, and that it's limiting to you, that you don't want to do it. That you want to just shine your light and get fit. Jeez, is this me? Okay. Okay. Gonna read this if it's not me so that I don't get my biases in the way, okay? And what is the objective truth? That there's some higher purpose, that you've cleared what you needed to clear, that you are in the flow state, that you are ready to shine your light, that you will be seen by others, that you are full of self-love, and that you're on a very high mission here, but that you are clarify this. Longing for something, a relationship. You're, and that you're refusing to consider expert advice. It's hard to forget that this message is going to be for me too. So it's like basically saying that I'm being told about getting back together with someone from the past, but I'm ignoring that in favor of like doing what I want to do. And then the truth is that I'm doing great things, but also I'm ignoring my longing for a relationship. So why would I be, so is your false impression that you can ignore your own longing, whether that be for connection or relationship or things like that? We got Earth Angel. Okay, so, it's hard for me not to like inquire more about this because it's something that I can kind of like, I feel like it's like pointing at me, calling me out a little bit. So I'm going to ask what expert advice would be needed to be considered. Like, what expert advice needs to be considered? Create the win-win-win, meaning I win, you win, we all win. Meaning there is a way where you can fulfill both. I just heard like meeting someone at the gym. Interesting. All right, pick two. I'm gonna, I wasn't trying to make these extra long, and reversal and movement. Basically, the message is the false impression that you have is that you're doing everything you can. And the truth is that there are other ways you can do the things you're doing that will be more fulfilling for you. We've got specialness here. Maybe you're a little bit entitled, feeling a little bit entitled to have things come out the way you want without doing the things that you actually would create the thing. Let's see what else. Tell me about what is the false impression? What is the false impression that pick two has? That you've been rejected. The conjunction came out again. Rejected. There's new growth. Oh, look, it's saying rejected and new growth, and what's the conjunction between them? Like, okay, ooh, this is interesting. If you've been watching my videos, I recently created a conjunction oracle. And the reason was because when I was doing my own readings, I was thinking, boy, I would have got the message sooner if I had known which conjunction went between those energies. And this is literally one of those cases. It's just like played out right here in this reading, where it's like, and I said, what is the false impression? And we got rejected and flora. Flora is new growth. So what if I read that as the false impression is that you've been rejected and that you could have new growth? Well, it really depends on what the conjunction is in between those, right? Because is the false impression that you've been rejected, or that there's room for growth, or that you've been rejected and there's room for growth, or you've been rejected but there's room for growth. or whatever. I know that I'm not like expressing this very clearly right now. See, this is what I mean about getting my own readings. Okay, so what is the false impression? And we got rejected and flora, and now I'm going to pull from the conjunction oracle. What is the false impression? We need to know what is it about rejected? Tell me the conjunction that goes with rejected. I've got to get a bigger box for these because they're a little bit squished in here. So I'm just trying to shuffle them up pretty good. Rejected until. What is the false impression? Rejected until rejected. Nor growth. Okay, so the false impression that you have is that someone from the past would just eventually reject you again. That nothing's changed. Oh. In the same way. Okay. All right. So, pick 2. You have an impression of a past situation that it's going to be the same old way always. 3 days is significant to this. But the truth is, Rainbow, that it's got a higher road now. It's on the high road now. That the old stuff was cleared. Oh my God. That the win-win-win can be created. Wow. There's a relationship that's worth revisiting. All right, pick 2. If something comes back to you, it's time to give it some consideration. Use your own discernment always. Don't just take this reading because you know better who the people are in your life. And yeah, I just want you to always use your discernment for that, okay? Because that's, like, God doesn't say, oh, go to a tarot reader to have them tell you your life. No, God will always only send you to a tarot reader because those are tools that you use to reflect on how you feel about what they've said. That's all. So if I say this and there's something in you that goes, hell no, then it's either not true for you or you're not healed to the place where that it could be true for you. So either way, like, you need to take that into consideration. If you hear this message and you're like, oh, cool. Like, I was just like, oh. If you're there, then it's like, okay, now you can consider, and now you are discerning enough because now you're like in that place of like open-mindedness. Like, oh, I will look at this new growth again and see what it is. Okay. All right, pick 2. We're going to move on to pick number 3. You chose Ara. Okay. What is the false impression? Semi-sextile. Validate. Let me shuffle these some more. Oh, I was like, what do I keep smelling? And it's the, saved the stuff that came out of my juicer to give to my niece's rabbit, but I just realized I just kept it out on the counter all night. So now I'll be throwing it away because I would have refrigerated it if I wanted to give it to her. When I juice it, it just like comes out in this little log of fiber. So I pass it along to the rabbit usually as snacks, but he just got some the other day, so I'm sure he's still working on it. And in the past, I would dry them out. Like on a sunny day, I would put it on a sheet and just like dry it out, like make rabbit snacks out of them. But yeah, I just kept getting a whiff of the decaying leaf matter. All right, so the false impression. What is the false impression? Themis, critical, elpis, unreasonable, tend to physical body, and Aries. Okay. And what is the truth? What is the objective truth? Just shuffling. Accomplishment. Ooh, a mystery. Justification. Inflated. I have no impressions yet of this, except for like maybe the impression of trying to put someone in their place or something. Well, I don't know. I'm not really like ready to go all in on that message. So, got astro.com, shallow, pressure reveals truth, and 10 plus years. Just gonna get one more for truth. Protected. Maybe the impression that you have is somebody is unreasonable and critical. And the truth is that that's their mask. The truth is that that's their mask. Okay, interesting. You know what I'm reminded of? This one time in the past, my brother let his beard like grow out crazy. It was like a very unruly, unkempt look. And he once told me that the reason that he was letting his beard grow that way is so people wouldn't talk to him. Like people wouldn't ask him questions out in public or ask for directions or things. And that's kind of the impression I'm getting here. Like the false impression you have is that somebody's kind of unreasonable and grumpy and like only focused on the physical aspects of life and what they can prove and what science says or something like that. And the truth is they actually are quite accomplished. And from their perspective, you know, it would be hard for you to know from your perspective anything other than that, because that's what they've showed you. There's a lot of blanks to fill in is the truth of the situation. And that you could maybe know more if you were like look at this person's astrology chart or something, but what they show is not that. They don't show who they really are. When there's pressure on this person, then the truth comes out of who they are. Like, say when there's pressure, that's when they get shit done. Like they will, like they're, they'll stay afloat and stuff like that. So maybe someone's focus has just not been trying to make any impression on you. It's just that the surface level of them that shows gives off this impression like they don't give a fuck. And it's because they really don't, in a way. Like, but it's not because they don't give a fuck about nothing. It's just like they're focused on something else. And they kind of they don't mind giving off that impression because it keeps a barrier. It keeps a barrier. Caretaking. Yeah. It's like their way of caretaking themselves is to let you have a poor impression of them, in a way. Interesting. All right, so let me just ask one more time to see if there's anything else. What is the false impression? Location and recreating wounding dynamic. What is the false impression? 11th house flow. The false impression is that what you see on the surface is indicative of something that runs deep through them as an issue, but it's not. It's a facade that they... Oh, I'm reminded of this person who once said to me, he knew I was doing readings and he wasn't someone who wanted to participate in a reading, and apparently didn't want he didn't want himself to be interpreted, I guess, or whatever. But he said to me one time, he's like, you only see what I want you to see about me. That's this person. And there's a song about it too. There's a song that says that. You only know. It's called Poison and Wine by the Civil Wars. I got Daring. Yeah, so pile 3, your false impression is of a person whose surface level is not indicative of who they are through and through, and it's by some sort of design. You were meant to come into contact with this person. There is a soul contract here for you to experience this thing with them. And the truth of the matter is there are unknown factors that you couldn't begin to know given the experiences you've had or the access you have to this person. That looking at their astrology chart could help, but not even all the way, I feel like, because they're kind of this mixed bag of, like, they've overcome some of their chart and things like that. Rejected in 1 month. Interesting. Maybe, okay, so maybe this person rejected you at some point, and so you got this impression of them that they're kind of grumpy, they're unreasonable, and, like, they don't have any grounds with which to relate to you on. Yeah. And for whatever reason, you're being brought to this information that says, like, hey, they're not who you think they are. That was by design. And it's not, I don't think it's to say to take it personal or you've done something wrong or anything. I think it's just to say, like, if you were to take that person's behavior and have a war, like within your own self about how you feel about them, even if you were never to take it to them, but just like hold the impression that I don't like that person. That's an unnecessary war, because the truth of the matter is their focus was elsewhere and they're doing something else that's important to them. Interesting. Really interesting. So, oh, I just had an impression that I lost again. Hold on. Yeah, so okay, I'm just going to recap it one more time. Same thing, I'm going to say it over again. Someone in your life, I want to say rejection is redirection, right? Like, someone in your life may have rejected you, and you might feel like you may be holding a grudge against them and seeing them through the lens of their behavior on that day or that time or the times that you've interacted with them. That's not who they really are. You just happen to see them at a time where that's the impression you got. They are going through something, but it's not tied to those impressions you got. And like, you were meant to interact with this person. You were meant to see this about a person, like see this dynamic. It's like, you know how we can jump to conclusions about people and situations and stuff. What I was just flashed to was this time where I was watching, I don't know what it was, some clip or reel on social media, and the impression was, okay, so you were watching a video of like a project's house catch on fire, and then you can see, like, it's some roofer, contractor roofer from across the street who's doing the filming, and you can see that the fire trucks all pull up to the building that's fenced in, and instead of like busting through the fence or whatever, they all like get out of the fire truck, and they're like casually walking around to the front of the building, and like there's flames coming out of the building, and and like this anger, I remember, came over me, like, why aren't they running? Why aren't they saving lives? Like, there are fucking people in that house in this project's building, like an apartment building complex. You could bust through that fence, you could get your hoses on the fire. Like, why are you just walking like it's nothing? And I remember being so upset and like mad that they weren't trying to save these lives. And then I read the comments section, and there was just some other insights about how that was the back of the building, and the front of the building already had the firemen, and they were already in the building, and they were already kind of secured, and those were just kind of like the backups, and they were like just assessing the situation, and the situation was already well underway and, you know, being dealt with. So then I realized, like, oh, like the anger that I had, that I felt, was in me. Like, I saw that experience through the lens of anger instead of seeing it through the lens of discernment, which would say, oh, maybe there's something here I don't understand. Maybe there's more factors that I'm not actually seeing, that I could never see because I'm only looking at it through this angle of my perspective, you know? So that's the impression I'm getting here. Okay. All right, pick 3. So maybe that can free you from some sort of inner turmoil that has been causing you distress, and like, you know, maybe spirit gets a little gets a little giggle when we get fooled like this. It's like we can fool ourselves too, you know. And it's just like take it in stride and humble ourselves as we go, and it's okay. All right, that's your message. Thank you for participating. See you in the next one.